things we'll never know, we'll never see, was what Brian Kemp had to offer besides what he did during COVID. Like,
Right.
people are even saying today, well, we want to know what Raphael Warnock is doing. We want to know what Raphael Warnock is doing for Georgia. I mean, okay, sure, but do you really need to know in comparison to Herschel Walker? Like, what is Herschel Walker about to do for Georgia? Absolutely nothing. Like, be confused. Like, that's what he's about to do for us.
Well, no, they know what he's gonna do. He's gonna do exactly what they tell him to. His selling point is that he will be amenable to pretty much everything they say. So he's just gonna keep the same right wing agenda going.
Yeah.
And this is what is stunning to me. Is the incompetence is just so obvious, and I just don't even know how you can talk yourself into voting for Herschel Walker.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember seeing one video of someone asking him directly about abortion rights and women's issues, and he looked at the girl behind him. He said, "Well, you're gonna have to ask her about that because I don't know too much about women's issues."
It was like,
huh? Sir, we are looking to hear from you, and we will never. But beyond that, like, we're not seeing them demand tangibles in the ways that we are. And also, Democratic candidates, you can say what you want about the two-party system, and I understand it definitely has its flaws. I sat here with Legally Hype and really combed through that. But Democratic candidates are giving us tangibles for what we want to see. And I think it goes back to the conversation of white women and white people not having as many stakes. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, something I said in the last video, they already have the power in their hands. All they have to do is wield it.
Right. Because right now, a lot of them are voting based off a manufactured culture war. Mm-hmm. They're voting for things. Well, it's two things I would say. They're voting for things that really don't matter, and they're voting in many cases, to hurt someone else. So it's about what they're able to deny other people. So then it's not even about having a comprehensive agenda, because I can tell you the Republican Party doesn't have one. They have no agenda.
There's no strategy.
There's no strategy. They just come out and they just say catchphrases that catch on. If they just say critical race theory, they'll get half of white people to vote for them. And it's like, what? That's not even an issue. It's not a tangible, not. Right? Yeah. And so we need to understand that, especially with this demographic shift that is inevitable in this country, that there are far too many white people taking this as the last stand of white supremacy. And that to them is what's on the ballot, is their whiteness is on the ballot, and that's what they're voting for.
Absolutely. And that takes me to what we talked about today in the parking lot. We covered a bit of the Kyrie conversation, and I'll be honest, well, the plan was always to have, Jemele Hill's coming, she's going to be fantastic, she's super versed in this field, we'll be able to have a conversation about what are next steps, but I also knew that the people wouldn't receive that in the best way possible.
Right.
But I began to just do some research about what you've been talking about recently, and I saw something on Twitter from Erica Lachey, at Erica Lachey. Y'all be putting your ads here. You did it yourself. Anyways, she says, I really don't understand how you're so adamant in your consistent attack on black men. This is in response, one more time. This is in response to an article you wrote for The Atlantic about Kyrie Irving and the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that are plaguing a lot of black men in high places, making them lose money, but that's neither here nor there. She says, this man already said he takes responsibility, pledged $500K, was suspended for at least 5 games, and has apologized. And you still kick him while he's down. So, read the tweet so you guys can know what's going on. But I do want to just make the connection clear here. We talked a lot about tangibles, why we go so hard about voting, why we go so hard about getting our communities engaged. But unfortunately, we fail to see any tangibles put in action when Republican candidates are put in place, when we have Democratic candidates who are at the beck and call of a majority Republican system that isn't allowing them to get things passed or put through, whatever, what have you. But one of the major groups, they also criticized Stacey for her ability to capture this audience, which she did, so shut up. Black men have historically felt like they are not seen. They're not represented at all when it comes to politics. They feel like not only are they not seen, they're pushed to the side or cast aside because the only conversation they really come up in is one about crime. And so I'm not even going to say Kyrie Irving, with this concept of the Hebrew Israelite, these are different sects of religious groups, or I like to call them affirmation groups because religious is strong. Well, no. Religious is correct.
It's appropriate.
Valid. Strong. Historical connections might be a reach. But they're developed to empower black men specifically. They're led by majority black men. And unfortunately, I think black men and the emasculation of black men, because that's real. That's a real thing. Like, black women talk a lot about how we don't have to be the stepping stools for you to express that process of being emasculated. We don't have to bear the brunt of it, but it is a true thing that exists. And because of it, black men find ways to forge and find community, to feel empowered. But I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of them use the master's tools.
Well, I mean, and this is obviously all very related to Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving has done, I put him and Kanye in different categories.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because Kyrie Irving has no problem being black, one, and he's also been very supportive of some major social justice issues. And so he's let it be known that this is the space he really wants to invest in and make an impact.
Well, let me clarify my statement. When I say master's tools, I mean, unfortunately, sometimes we can't build those ideologies without trying to denigrate another group.
And I don't think a lot of us really honestly understand what when you say something is anti-Semitic, what that is. And you know, I watched.
Spell it out for him.
Well, I mean, I watched the documentary, and because I wanted to make sure that I didn't make the mistake of, you know, hopping on to criticizing Kyrie Irving, who I like and have met, and we've done some social justice work together. And I wanted to be sure that I was very clear about what was said. When you have a documentary that in the first 20 minutes quotes Willie Lynch,
who is not real.
Not a real person, guys.
I did talk about it a long time ago. The letter is not real.
The letter
when
is
I
not
say
real.
It's not real, it does not exist. Nobody else wrote it. There's not a real Willie Lynch. It is fabricated.
It is fabricated.
I hate to tell you.
Yes. When you have that, when you're quoting Henry Ford, which a lot of people do not know, that Henry Ford is one of the biggest anti-Semites in history. He wrote a 4-volume book blaming the Jews for everything, right? So that's also quoted. And then one of the screens, graphic screens, uses the Holocaust as something that Jews in their mind have leverage for their power. And I'm like, so it's Holocaust denial. This is in the first 20 minutes. And I'm like, did he not watch this video? Or maybe he didn't. Because those are when you have people who deny the severity of the Holocaust. If they deny that it happened, that is anti-Semitic. Okay? And I think there's some things that we need to be a little more educated on as a community. And, you know, to piggyback off what you said, is that if our empowerment comes at the expense of others, are we really empowered?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so. Like, my rights and my ability to exist don't have to come at the expense of somebody else. That doesn't mean I don't want you to exist, or that I can't recognize culturally your history, or, you know, some of the things that can happen. Because we certainly do not like it when people undermine or demean our history. We do not like that, right?
Yeah.
So why then will we ever feel comfortable trafficking in that space?
I think it feels easy. I mean, that's essentially, it feels easy. It feels like you have somewhere to place blame when we can just blame.
Well, and then we also have to be honest about something. We have, and understandably so, because, you know, you brought up that eloquent point about black men. Sometimes I think some of the friction between our two communities, between the black community and Jewish community, there's a jealousy there. Because we definitely feel as if the response to when you know, something happens that is against the Jewish community is different than when it's our, like, anti-blackness is pretty much what this country is built on. So it's not even subtle. And even when it's obvious, it's like we still have to fight for a level of dignity and respect that we feel like other people do not have to fight for in the same fashion.
Absolutely.
So I understand that frustration. I understand where that comes from. But the other part too that we have to be real about is that we have not always done a great job of drawing boundaries in our own community. We should have drawn a boundary with Kanye West a long time ago. And so part of the reason the anti-blackness that he was able to get away with is because we allowed that to happen. We said it was okay. And so we have to understand these other communities, they don't play that.
They do not
right?
play. Not a single one of them. All right, YouTube, that's enough free stuff for you. Of course, to engage in the full conversation, you're going to have to subscribe to us on Patreon.